everybody, and welcome to HitStart's Best Practices series. My name is Josiah Clark. I make the comedy review show Blink, and I'm here today to talk about best practices for scripting comedic content on YouTube. For me, the way that I always start the process is just by choosing the material, choosing what I'm going to review. And that's honestly one of the most important steps. Making sure that what you're going to be reviewing is a really good match for your channel and your style of humor even. But when you find the right thing, and you'll know it's the right one when you just know, like, in your soul, you're like, I have to review this. Once I decide what I'm going to review, the next step is to capture my footage, and then what I'll do is, as I'm recording the video game or watching the movie or the TV show or whatever it is I'm doing, I'll have this list of notes that I'm constantly writing down. And every time that there's a moment that happens and I'm like, I really want to talk about that, then I'll make sure and write that down. Then what I do is I take that list of notes and I start writing a script using them. And I just am constantly looking back and forth between my notes and the script and coming up with the best ways to talk about each of these moments. I go down the line with the whole script until I'm done. Now, one of the most important things about script writing is brevity. There's the famous quote, brevity is the soul of wit. And so what you want to make sure you're doing as you're scripting your video is you don't really drag anything on for too long. When people ask me how I do my scripting, one of the first questions they ask is, how do you come up with jokes? How do you come up with the comedy that you do? It's something you work at. You work at finding how to be funnier, how to do better at writing jokes, how to do better at finding the comedy in situations. So I come up with a lot of the jokes off the top of my head. I also write a lot of them. I also do a whole lot of ad-libbing. I do a lot of improvisation on camera. And then lastly, I have a couple of really good trusted friends who I'll show all my scripts before I shoot them, all my videos before I post them, to get their input. And a lot of times, sometimes they'll suggest jokes themselves that I'll kind of go, hey, that's a really good idea, and I'll kind of adopt it. Sometimes they'll tell me, hey, this is lame, don't go there, that's stupid. And I'll cut it. But it really, really helps to have other people in the process who are involved, especially when you're on camera. If you're doing any kind of improvisation especially, it's a really good idea if you have somebody who's willing to help you. Have somebody there, whether they're running the camera or not, just to kind of bounce things off of them. My good friend Garrett, he shoots many of my videos, and so I'll be constantly, as I'm doing improv and stuff on the fly, I'll just be bouncing things off of him, and I know when he starts laughing, that's when I stop, because that's when I know, okay, this is funny, and if I take it farther, like I could, sometimes I do take it farther, but I just kind of, like I said, it's all practice. You kind of gain some ideas of when to stop, when to start, and what to do. And eventually I'm just kind of like, okay, you know what? That's it. Like, that's the point. We're moving on to the next line. I'll write the script and then I'll give it about a few, if nothing else, a few hours, but ideally like a day, just to sit there, not really work on it anymore, and then I'll go back and I'll reread it. And what I find a lot of times is that as I'm rereading it, I'll find things I'm like, cut it. Like, it's too much. That's not funny. That's not as funny as I thought it was yesterday. You know, you'll come up with a lot of those kind of things, and you'll start just cutting them out, cutting out the fluff, because, like I said, brevity is the soul of wit. You want to keep things to the point. Once I have my scripting done, I've recorded the voiceovers, I've shot the live action, it's time to edit it. You know, in this realm of YouTube, most of the time you're doing like everything yourself, but if you were fortunate enough to have another person who works with you on editing, make sure you're working closely with them. Make sure that you've got the same vision, because editing is where everything comes together. All these disparate elements come together to make your show and make it into what your show is. And why people want to watch it is a lot of times not just because you had great voiceovers or great live action or great writing or whatever. It's also because the way that you presented all those things was really good. And again, the most important part of the editing process is brevity. You find the moments that you thought worked when you were writing, you thought they worked when you were doing the voiceovers, you thought they worked when you were shooting them, and then you get them all into editing and you're like, no. And that's okay. And that's actually really important that you have those things that you go, no, that's enough. That's not going to work. I need to cut that. So that's about all I got to talk about with this. I hope that this was helpful for you and that you enjoyed. Thank you to HitStart Network for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. Keep your spirits up and your HP high.